Were you aware of what her backstory and origins were on the show before it was revealed in certain episodes?
Yes, I was. I was aware about, I think I was like 80% of it. Jeff Johns like to kind of keep certain things under wraps to kind of surprise us and see our reaction, during the table reads and stuff like that. But I had the base and her origin story pretty down from day one.
Because when you finally get to do scenes with Dragon King, your character's father, is he actually getting to do his lines on set? Because he's got the hood over, so I'm
Yeah.
assuming all of that is ADR. So I don't know how much he has to do on set on the day.
Well, I mean, he's all of our scenes, he's definitely acting with me, and I can hear him. I know it's weird to even imagine that, but you can hear him through his thick blanket over his head. But yeah, he has a mic on and everything. So they try to get as raw as they can get, when it comes to his words and stuff. But I'm sure he spent a lot of time in the ADR booth.
Yeah. But the thing is like, if you actually pay attention over the course of the show, I feel like I fully understood her as a character because I'm not trying to be shady, but I listened to the after show podcast that you did, and there
Uh-huh.
was some person, because obviously I can't see anyone, it's a podcast, but somebody was saying, oh yeah, I hate that character, but I love the actress, she's so nice. And I'm going, you hate the character? You hate an abused child who has like been horrendously tortured her entire life and has had nobody to
Yeah,
guide her down a better path. Like, okay,
I know.
all right.
I know. It's so sad. It is so sad. She has a heartbreaking story for real. And it kind of goes to I mean, it all makes sense why she's so numb and why she has to power play everyone, and why she always has to have the last word, because the one person she wants to actually receive genuine love from will never, because he's not warm anymore. My dad is like an immortal, been around since the 40s. Like, he doesn't he could care less. So yeah, he just sees me as an experiment. So it's a pretty cold household, cold upbringing.
Yeah, I mean, people talk about how, she's got these horrible lines or whatever, but the stuff that her father says to her, like I tried to take notes, and I think he said something about, oh, here it is. You are my greatest experiment.
Mm-hmm. I know. And that was actually a really fun moment to play with Nelson Lee, who plays Dragon King. Um, we did it so many different ways, but that was like the most kind of like scary, almost like creepy in a weird way, but also kind of like, I want to be your best experiment, but also I'm your daughter first. Um, so that was crazy fun to do that. And then also, I mean, I didn't know this until we were shooting, but Jeff was like, "Yeah, you actually you killed your mom," which is totally that's not a giveaway. Like, we know this.
Oh yeah,
And
they
it was
say it
actually,
many times on the show.
yeah, and it was an accident because my dad had implanted the knives, the daggers that come out of my wrists. I think when I was like 6 or 7, and there was a moment where I lost my temper, and I kind of like lashed out on my mom, and I cut her neck on accident. And it was because I wasn't properly trained to use these vicious things, because
Mm-hmm.
I was a child. And now it's the blame is always on me in some sort of way. I mean, I blame myself. Obviously, my dad feels like he blames me too. So the weight.
Yeah. Well, and Cindy has a really, really interesting relationship with Courtney on the show, because it
Mhm.
kind of seems like she wants to be friends, but maybe sometimes she doesn't want to be friends. So, what is your approach with playing that? Like, what is in your head? Do you think that she genuinely wants that relationship, or is it just wanting any relationship? Is it something specific about Courtney that she's drawn to?
Um, I would say that it's a few things. So obviously, like, my reputation, Cindy's reputation within the school, she's been a bully, she's controlled people. So she scares a lot of people off, besides Jenny in a way. I mean, Jenny's pretty, scared of Cindy as well. But having a new kid in town, it's like, oh, maybe I'd be able to win her as a friend because she doesn't yet like know who I am. So I was coming at my relationship with Courtney kind of that way. And then also just the fact that she stands up to me and says her piece without, hesitating. I think Cindy thought that was kind of like obviously she tells her to like shut up, but it's like, whoa, this is kind of new. No one does this to me. And this is kind of intriguing. Like who is this girl? Could she be someone that like she feels powerful? If two powerful women come together, it's like game over. So I think I mean when I was approaching the character, I was kind of playing with both thoughts.
Because she apologizes to Courtney after the attack, which I thought was very interesting. And she, like, I couldn't, even having watched that episode multiple times, it's like I still don't really know all of her motivations of why she was doing that. Because on the one hand, at the end of it, she goes, "Yeah, I know you're Stargirl," which I also love that she was smart enough to be like not fooled by a mask, because that's like
oh my god, I know,
the long running
I was
joke.
so happy.
So, what were you thinking when playing that scene out of how much of that is a genuine apology and how much of that does she really feel like that camaraderie with her?
I would say, I mean, Cindy's all about taking it into her own hands now. I mean, even before she was locked up for all of that time, she was like, I'm going to pull trig, I'm going to make the decisions, and I'm going to show up with Courtney, like by the neck to my father, because I want my dad to be like, yes, you are ready for the ISA. So I mean, my approach in that scene was ultimately a manipulation type of thing to disarm her and get her comfortable and get her convinced. But I did mix in those moments of, we are the same. Like we are the same. I was almost coming at it like that. We are similar. We are way similar than you think. I can't necessarily like flat out tell you that because I don't even know if you really know what you are. But trust me, we are. And if that means that we could be on the same team at one point, cool. But if that also means we need to be opposites and nemesis, like I'm down for that too. So it's almost kind of like a manipulation thing to get her comfortable, but then also kind of testing the waters for future in a way, because who knows what's going to happen next in that moment.
There are a lot of instances of Cindy speaking very quickly. Was this something you decided early on about how you wanted to play the character? Because I couldn't tell if it was just meant to be just a particular character detail or if there was something deeper about like overpowering people verbally by speaking so fast that they can't really catch up.
I think that's probably just the whole power play thing of like having the last word and wanting to just wanting to make sure that the next person doesn't can't feel overpowered. I don't know, I kind of, there were different ways I performed different lines, and I feel like those ones that they chose to put in the show, I just happened to be a little like little jabs here and there.
This might be a really insignificant detail in the grand scheme of things, but you're here and we have an hour, so I might as well ask you anyway. Yeah. When she first meets Courtney and she says something about, "I'll call you," and Courtney goes, "Wait, you have my number?" And Cindy's like, "Yeah." She's like, "How do you have my number?" And she says, "Don't worry about it." And I kept waiting for them to explain, like, is she a hacker? Is she, is this the time of people having phone books still? Because the time period is kind of ambiguous sometimes
it
as
is.
well.
Yeah, so. Totally. I hear that. So that was something I did ask Jeff a little bit. He didn't go into it too much, and that's kind of why he gave us a lot of freedom as actors, this is the first time these characters are live action. I mean, I think Stargirl was created a couple of times before, but I mean, Shiv, definitely this is the first time. So there were a lot of just pieces of freedom to kind of do our own research on and decide how we wanted to approach that line or approach that scene or whatever. And we could always ask questions on set because Jeff was always there. But that line, I did research on specifically just, the pieces of Cindy that are super villainess, and she is half cyborg. Like she does, like there are pieces of her where she can like read minds and everything. They don't get into that though in the show, which I thought was kind of interesting. But if you know the comic, you know that she's been kind of messed with internally. I mean, that's another reason why I can heal over kind of like a reptile when I get blasted in the face with fire. Um, so um, I think that she could probably, I mean, also she has connections. Like she kind of low key runs the school. Like she can walk home like from like underneath the school, you know, like she knows all the tunnels, like she knows all the little secret passageways. So I can only imagine all the things that she, you know, has under her sleeve slash no one knows.
What sort of conversations did you have with the person or people that were working in the costume department? Because Cindy has these really bold, memorable outfits, and sometimes almost inexplicably so. Like there's a, oh God, what was it? It might have been for a talent show outfit. Is
Oh
some
my
sort
God,
of,
that outfit was crazy.
yeah.
It was like a snake. It was like a snake skin like outfit twerk contest. Yeah. So that was for a twerk contest that was happening, and I guess Jenny and Cindy always win the twerk contest, so they had to wear something like risque and like, I don't know, form fitting. Um, the costume department had a lot of fun with Cindy's character. I think she was one of the characters that she could have a lot of fun with, so I think she got a lot of her art, like, I don't know, just kind of like Clueless-esque vibes out through Cindy. I know like the berets and stuff. I don't know if you remember the berets, the yellow and red berets, which were total like just kind of pop on screen. I'm pretty sure we shot in Atlanta, and I'm pretty sure I tried on almost every plaid skirt in Atlanta. That's a thing with Cindy in the comics too. She's always wearing like a blazer and plaid skirt, so that OG kind of schoolgirl thing. But yeah, I mean, and then you know, towards the end of the season, like I wore the same thing for the last like 5 episodes because I was locked up, which was kind of fun, and it was pants, which was easy to fight in and do stunts with. So I don't know, they got really funky and cool and like colorful with Cindy, which might be a little different. I don't think they're gonna lean into that as much season 2.
So, how much of what you do with performing this character are you discussing beforehand? Because so much of what you're emoting with the character happens non-verbally because she's hiding and burying everything. But it's something really unique to film that you can communicate that to the audience that you wouldn't be able to do if it was, let's say, like theater, because people can't see your face that closely. Right. So right. Are you talking with directors to say, to give you time to kind of express certain things, or is it rehearsed beforehand, perhaps?
I mean, as an actor, I've always just kind of thought like you can find your moments within any writing, whether you have a ton of things to say or whether you have, you know, hardly anything to say. I really enjoy how Cindy does kind of bring it down to just one word or one line or, you know, one sound or one yell or whatever, because to be honest, like that's kind of how things could go. Like you could always simplify it. And she's always in her head too. She's like, no one has time. Like, I don't have time for this. I don't have time for you. I don't have time. So just get it out, done, by, out of my face, whatever, unless it's her dad. Or if she's having fun manipulating Courtney, of course, or like bullying Yolanda. But there wasn't much conversation about how, like, oh, Meg, you should come in and do it this way. It was all very free, and that's why I kind of just like came in with how I wanted to portray the character, and fortunately it worked and they liked it. And then once they saw that pattern happen, you know, like 3 or 4 episodes in a row, they started to write into that. And having the most, like, the amazing writers that we have for the show, like they really did tap into each actor and the way that they act and how to complement that fully.
So when you first have that big confrontation, you know, between yourself and Stargirl, and it's the fight at school, you've got, I believe it's a staff of some kind, and you're kind of twirling it around. How much of that did you actually do, and how did you go about learning how to do that?
So you guys interviewed her as well. Her name is Lauren Kim, and yes. she was my stunt double. She was also Joy's, and a vet Monreal's as well for a few episodes. And so I would meet up with her. Like, she would have intense hours. I remember this episode 6, when they're introducing the JSA together officially. They were shooting outside for like 2 weeks in a row, and it was all night shoots. And this was before episode 7. And I was like, oh, we need to get some, obviously, training in. We did a little bit before, but now that we actually have the script and what the sequences are going to look like, it's easier to attack what we're specifically going to do instead of just like, I don't know, wing it. So I would meet up with her like in the middle of the night, like while they were shooting. It was humid as hell in Atlanta, and she would be like teaching me little sequences here and there while she had breaks on the side. And it was so fun to be training like on set while they're doing the actual stunts, like the cars are flipping over and blowing up and like all of this stuff. And I'm over here with like a staff. And she's, being super patient and practicing with me on her, moments off. It was insane. It was so sweet. She's probably one of the best teachers I've learned from just in general, because of her patience and the way that she can show me all the specifics with her body, and how I was able to come to trust, myself when doing stunts too. So yeah, and she taught me Kali, Kali, which is a form of martial arts and originates from the Philippines. And I'm half Filipino, which actually they didn't know when they were casting me. So it was kind of a cool little coincidence.
Yeah, you mentioned that on the other show that I was listening to, and I thought that was nice to kind of have that little cultural alignment, since I think, we talk about Asian representation. Asians are very underrepresented in general, but as well, there's a real problem of kind of homogenizing Asians and thinking that we're all interchangeable, and not understanding that it's a population of billions of people across numerous countries, and like we're not the same. Contrary to what Hollywood thinks, like
completely. I know. But I think it's so beautiful, and the fact that, I don't know, the fact that they got that specific with the training too was really fun. Lauren was helping me out with and teaching me with batons at first, and then we had the staff type of thing, and they're completely two different types of approaches. But just getting used to the footwork was very helpful at the beginning. My staff is awesome though too. Like Simon, he was the props guy. He made it from scratch for me, and it was awesome. It's not as big as Stargirl staff, but I mean, it shoots out fire, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I think Joy said she had to do about 8 or 9 fittings with her costume originally, the tigress costume, obviously not the athleisure. So did you have to do fittings a similar amount or more, perhaps?
Oh my god, yeah. Oh my god. So I booked I booked Stargirl 2 years ago, and we didn't start shooting, I think, like November of 2018. Oh my god, is that right? Yeah. And then we shot in 2019, 6 months after we booked. And so during those 6 months, I was going to fittings like, I don't know, maybe every other week. And it was a lot of, like the photographs of your body and how to, and, just all these things that I've never done before. They had to life cast, that's funny, life cast. They had to life cast my head, which was crazy too. I'm claustrophobic, and they did not warn me. And I was like, oh my God, this is what I have to do. Oh my God. And this woman held my hand the whole time and was like, do you want a hand? And I was like, yeah. And you literally had to be under there for 45 minutes or 30 minutes, 45 minutes. And I heard that some people fell asleep in them. And I was like, how are you falling asleep with like plaster and these things on your, and you can't hear anything? I had them play reggae, because like reggae is like the only genre that kind of keeps me calm. But that there was a whole just slew of fittings there and setting up the whole suit. And then afterwards, when we were shooting in Atlanta, I was flying back every other weekend for custom, like little tweaks here and there, which obviously won't be the case now. They have it pretty down, but yeah, no, the suit's very intricate. My suit's very intricate, and I only wore it one episode of the whole season.
That's what I was gonna say. Is, I mean, that's it's the big action moment of your character, arguably. Speaking purely on a physical level, because I think the big dramatic emotional one is killing her father, which I was like, good, should have done it sooner. What do you mean?
I know,
But
right? Thank you.
you only got to wear it once, and I'm going, oh,
I
they better
know.
make good use of it in season 2, because
Oh, yeah, and they will. They will. I mean, I think it's also kind of like stellar that Cindy can fight even without her suit. You know what I mean? Like, because she has those weapons and she had like her skin. Like, it's kind of I don't know. It's kind of cool. Um, but definitely in season 2, you'll see more of the suit. That's for sure.
So you also do music in addition to acting, and I did a
Yeah.
fair bit of research into that, and you had all of your songs. So you, in one of the interviews, I think you mentioned your producer's name is Jamie Silverstein. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes,
How
that is correct.
how did you meet your producer?
So music it's been in my life just as long as acting. It's the other half of it. Hard to focus on both at a time. So there always are times and moments, when we can go back and forth. Jamie, I met through a music mutual friend, who was producing some of my other musical friends' music, and we met, and I've worked with a ton of producers before, so it's really just like the patience slash vibe you get from them. Like if they're helping motivate slash inspire you to write things that you're proud of, and keep the room comfortable, and to collaborate, in a healthy way. And there's been so many instances where that isn't the case with some producers. And when I met Jamie, we literally clicked. We clicked so fast, and we spent a year and a half just like, and I hardly, during this year and a half, like, during 2018, like I hardly booked anything. So it was like a full year of music, which was amazing to just rack up songs and songs that I, was excited to share with people at one point, and learn how I like to write, learn what I wanted to sound like, learn stuff from him as well. Almost like our writing sessions almost turned into therapy sessions in a weird way, because the things that we were writing about were pretty relevant and stayed relevant throughout the whole year. So super grateful for that experience. And then now that 2020 is here, I'm able to release all the music that I've kind of been holding on to and waiting for the right time. So it's exciting to get people's feedback from it finally.
Do you prefer to keep your music career more independent? Because I'm not trying to sway your answer in any way. You can have any opinion that you like. But my personal opinion is that I think the music industry is garbage. If we talk about the corporate side of things and major labels, I think they're just evil. And I don't think that, like, if music is genuinely your passion, now that we have social media and YouTube, I think there's very little reason to sell your soul away and be based. I don't want to. Enslaved sounds like a strong word, but then again, if you read some of those contracts, maybe it is kind of an accurate word. So, what are your thoughts on
Totally.
that?
Yeah, I know my biggest fear is to get shelved and signed, and it's like, oh, awesome, you're signed, but now they have full creative control over the things that you can write and things you can do, the people you can work with. So definitely want to keep it as independent as I can, and fund it as much as I can. I mean, if investors come through, I mean, that's awesome, but honestly, like I'm totally okay with keeping it just merely myself. And then also just venturing out and finding producers and other writers and performers to collaborate with, which completely exists. And those people are usually great and good people. So yeah, definitely keeping it as independent. I don't want, I mean, because as an actor, in a way, I mean, we are kind of puppets to the show, right? I mean, they eventually write for you once they trust you. And if they trust you, you can, come in with your stuff and they'll let you play. But with music, it's like no one is controlling what you're doing and what you're saying. It's very liberating. And to keep the integrity there, like you have to, almost like you have to keep it independent. It's vulnerable, it's real, it's honest, it's the words that you write, not what someone else writes. I mean, I always say I love acting so much, but I always say, like, I will make a living acting and I will die making music.
Who do you collaborate with when you're working on your music videos?
Keenan O'Reilly did my last music video. He's wonderful. Actually, you guys were playing his stuff just before my music video, Bruises. And then my friend Monet, who's just a girlfriend of mine, she did my last music video, Some and All of It, which is also out on all platforms. And she's just an artistic beast. She's just great. She has a great eye. Also very kind of like crafty and kind of homey in the way that she edits everything. So it's kind of fun. But Keenan O'Reilly did this one that you're watching right now, which is Bruises, which is kind of like the more professional approach, I guess, which was kind of cool to do with him. He had so many great ideas. Oh my God, watching this, I'm just like flashing back. Yeah. They're great.
How much input do you like to have with the concepts for your videos?
Oh, major input, major conversation and outline. With Keenan, he came with a bunch of ideas just because of Bruises, what the song's about, like how can we kind of make this digestible in a very like a visual kind of like sexy way. And that song, when I listen to it, I just hear and see purple. So that's kind of where we started with just the colors. And then we found a studio and then got more inspired about like how can we take advantage of this space. Now with Some and All of It, that song is about getting lost on an island and like island fever, but island fever in a good way. And I wrote it after I didn't even go to like a super legit island. I just went to Catalina Island with, an ex-boyfriend. And I was like, oh my God, this is so nice. Like to get away, like I wonder this feeling. I wonder how I can, capture this in a song. And so when we shot the video, I was like, oh, let's just go back to Catalina. And we went during an off season. It was completely dead. And it was just me running around the island with a bathing suit on. It was really fun.
Have you tried to market or push any of your stuff in the Philippines? Because a friend of mine, a dear friend, she's also half Filipino. And she tells me all the time about how, people in the Philippines love to support Filipino artists. Like as soon as they find out, oh, that person's Filipino, we love them. Come gig here, come tour here, or whatever.
Totally. I've completely approached the whole Filipino market. I mean, maybe not as much as I should, because I've never been there before. It'd be amazing to go there and visit. I have some family out there too, and maybe try to book some shows or some meet and greets or something. I don't know. But my music manager / booking agent when it comes to venues and musical performances, her name is Luella Hanna, who is also Filipino, and she has a huge connect in the Philippines. So any moment that she has, she's always down to share with me. And I've done interviews with people from the Philippines. I went on a talk show, a Filipino talk show a few years ago, and played my guitar and talked. It was great. It was cool. This whole quarantine, it's been a little interesting trying to figure out how to set up, interviews like this and how to get connected to people overseas and figure that whole thing out. So I don't know. I'll be on her with that though. But I feel like I've touched on it. I think there's people in the Philippines that know who I am.
Have you ever done any songwriting in Tagalog? Even if it's just like a few phrases or something?
No, I have not. That's a really good idea. My mom and my grandmother, they were actually just at my house a couple of hours ago. They were speaking Tagalog. They never spoke to me in Tagalog when I was little, so it doesn't roll off the tongue as easy. I know a few words in Tagalog, but yeah, I haven't even thought about that. There's that one Black Eyed Peas song called Bebo. Do you know have you ever heard of that song?
Is that a recent one? Because I started following off
it's old.
Oh,
no,
is
it's
it?
Old.
I'm gonna have to look that up then.
It's so funny, and they just because one of their bandmates is Filipinos from the Philippines, and I think he wrote the song and performed it. It's really catchy. It's a fun song.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think songwriting would lend itself to kind of the hybridization of, you have English, you have Tagalog. Even if you just have one or two words and you make it kind of hooky, and you just kind of repeat it over and over again. It's like you can fake it. Like you don't have to have a conversation, just like,
No,
oh,
I
that's
know.
a phrase. Like, let me just make a melody for that, put it on a loop, like add a beat,
Yeah,
and there we go.
exactly. And if you don't mind me asking, what's your ethnicity?
Oh, I'm
Now that
Japanese.
we're talking about Asian. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah, and like
Nice.
majority of my family is in Japan, so like I
Okay.
feel more
Okay.
Japanese than anything else. You know, that's I think the whole conversation about diaspora and identity is something that doesn't get had as much as it should, because
Uh-huh.
like I know a lot of the discourse online. Like I think you're more active on Instagram than Twitter, but Twitter, because everything is words over images, I guess.
Right.
And like, and you start to get into kind of Asian Twitter, and I see a lot of Asian Americans that feel very strongly about the label Asian American. But for me personally, I'm like, I'm Asian. You can just call me Asian. Like I don't, but that's
Yeah.
so unique to me and my experience, and I would never try to take that away from Asian Americans who feel strongly about wanting to be labeled as such. And for me, I'm like, I'm Japanese
Yeah.
before I am anything else, and all my
Right.
family or most of my family is still there. But for other people, you know, they have generations here or some
Right.
other country in their diaspora. So yeah, I
Completely.
try not to police other people's identities. It's like however you identify and whatever your culture or cultures. So yeah, but
Exactly.
I'm glad that we're seeing more Asians on television and in films now, though, because that feels like a very recent, like
Just
not even a
explode. Yeah.
resurgence, but because it was never that great to begin with. We've
Hmm.
always been kind of like on the outer reaches of being
Yeah, right. Like the
visible.
best friends, or yeah, like yeah, little things. I completely understand what you mean. Yeah, no, it is cool to kind of to see our faces on the screen, the little and this, the little and the big. I mean, Stargirl's pretty diverse, but I yeah, it's trippy. It's trippy being able to work with other Asians too, and like Lauren, her being a stunt double and having like a similar experience in the entertainment industry, but also very different. Um, and the fact that they, have to cast, girls or women that look like the woman that they're stunt doubling, like kind of in the same way. I mean, she stunt doubled three other girls on Stargirl, and I mean, Yvette's Mexican, I'm Asian, and she like kind of looks like mixed. Like it's interesting how these ethnicities can just like flow in and out, and I don't know, keeping it straight up and straight on is obviously the way to go.
Yeah, Joy
But
said that it was refreshing to have other Asians on set to work with because
yeah,
normally she's the only one. And I don't know if you had a similar experience perhaps in your career.
yeah, I mean, yeah, unless they're casting my mom, or my dad, it's usually. I mean, I'm thinking, yeah, I mean, usually, yeah, they have that like coin Asian person, and then they move on to like the next ethnicity. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Which is kind of how it goes with a lot of the other races.
So I'm
Weird.
curious for you as an actor when you're auditioning for stuff, do you have to kind of go out of your way to get out of a box that people might try to put you in? Because I had this sort of reflex visceral anger when I listened to that podcast you were on, and the person kind of made this to me it doesn't matter that they didn't mean any harm by it because it was still a stupid thing of them to say, where they were saying something about, oh yeah, you're what casting directors would call exotic, and I immediately saw red because like exotic is a word that you use for objects, not people. So like
Hmm.
I don't know if that's something that you have to battle in how you find parts, or if it's maybe better now
Hmm.
marginally.
So the word that I see a lot on castings is ambiguous. Um, which, I mean, how do you feel about ambiguous versus exotic? What's your thought? Just before I keep going.
I mean, it's a weird thing to fixate on. I think it's still coming from a
Yeah.
place of ignorance, but exotic is more like
Yeah,
exotic is
exotic
straight
is
up
it
a
could yeah.
microaggression. Like
Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
inexcusable at this point. Like it's not
Right.
1997. Like don't say exotic, please. Like
Totally.
exotic is like an exotic rug or like an exotic food. But even then but like, okay.
Mhm.
Or you could just
Yes.
not.
Yeah. I mean, I see ambiguous a lot, ethnically ambiguous when, they want like a Pacific Islander, Asian, or, Spanish, or actually not even Spanish. It's usually more so like Pacific Islander, Asian. That's kind of like ambiguous to them. because I am half white. My dad is Irish, so I could get away. Like I've auditioned for just the most random ethnicities though, in general with acting. Like I've auditioned for Indian. I've auditioned for, Persian. I've auditioned for half black, even though I'm like I'm not half. I mean, my hair gets really curly, and I could look, you know, half-ish, but like I'm not. And you can't fake that in any way. So I mean, I never find that my ethnicity puts me in a box other than the box that they're checking on their end. Like my performance never is compromised. It's more like this is my approach to this, and whether she's white, black, Asian, Spanish, Persian, Indian, who doesn't even matter. Like it's the way that I'm performing the role has nothing to do with what I look like. And usually it's like if you don't book it, it's usually about your ethnicity. They went a different way, they went a different race, and that's complete out of your control. So I've been able to detach myself from that box, because it's inevitable, and it's out of your control, once you leave the room. So,
Do you have any aspirations beyond on the acting side of things, whether it's writing or directing, anything like that? Because acting is really cool to, climb into a character and be someone different, but also there's a real lack of power with
yeah,
being an actor that, if you're kind of like a hybrid, like, oh, I'm an actor writer, or like I'm an actor director, I'm an actor producer, and then you kind of get to have more of a say in how things go and maybe subvert
totally,
some of the uglier sides of the industry, perhaps.
totally. I've So my writing lies with music. I've never really tried, I guess, to write a script. I've sat in writing rooms and observed, and I have a ton of friends who are all working on amazing projects, and they're always sending it to me to kind of get my take on it. Um, so I've never attempted to do that. That's always been on the list, but I do see myself directing at one point in the future, just because I started in theater, and just the little exercises that they give us, like cast this scene, cast this play, and just to be able to see the image, like see the story before you actually, piece it together, has always come easy. Um, and I think that it kind of ties into the actor part as well. I mean, when I work with directors who were actors before, they're so much easier to work with for some reason, because they know how to get what they want out of the actor by just a few words here and there, instead of controlling, instead of line reads or anything like that. Like they know what to say to trigger the actor to feel what they want from them. um and I think it would add, I'm sorry, I put low battery. It would add layers to the projects I could work on. But writing, I think I should try it. I've always just written poetry, so I don't like, and poetry sometimes has a structure, but usually doesn't. Like you can just do whatever. And I know that writing scripts and movies, they have like a major structure, and that kind of intimidates me. But honestly, I just need to get over it and try it.
Would you be interested in potentially directing an episode of Stargirl? Because I've noticed that on the CW, now that it's moving to the CW, a lot of the shows that run long enough, certain actors on the show kind of make the transition to get to direct an episode at one point or another.
Yeah. I mean, that would be amazing if Stargirl ever were to entertain that for me. I mean, it probably wouldn't be until like season 4 or 5. But I mean, that would be crazy. Yeah, to be given the trust to do that, for sure. I mean, the director who directed episode 7, Shiv part
Leah
1,
Thompson.
Leah Thompson, and I was so lucky to get her to have her direct my episode. She was such a wonderful person to work with. And I know that Angelica, who plays Dr. Midnight, and Beth, she's known that she's been wanting to direct for a long time. So she just was able to ask any question, every question with Leah, and Leah was able to walk her through it and be very patient. And I watched the whole process happen, and I was like, if this is what it takes, like to shadow like this, it would be amazing. Like, especially, a person that's approachable like her. So yeah, I mean, that that would be such an opportunity if that ever were to come. Maybe we're putting it out in the universe right now and it'll
Oh
happen.
yeah, I'm all about manifesting stuff. Like
Yeah.
we have to put it out there. Like I will interview Henry Golding someday. Like here we go. Let's make it happen.
Put it out there, girl. Put it out there. Yes.
So for anybody who doesn't already know, Leah Thompson was in Back to the Future. That's arguably what she's best known for. Well, maybe that and Howard the Duck, but I've never seen that. I just know she was in it. But you spoke really highly of her on that podcast that I listened to. And I was curious about your thoughts on the work environment or the work dynamic of being an actor and having the people above you, like directors and producers and stuff like that. Because I think some people, maybe with the more old school mentality, I think they tend to lean more towards the ends justify the means. So maybe if you have like directors or producers that have too big of egos, or they're I would use the word abusive because I don't really filter very well sometimes. I'd be like, no, you're being abusive and toxic and you shouldn't act like that. But do you feel like that's something that needs to be left in the past? Like for you as an actor, is it more helpful to have people not pushing you in that way? Like, is the harmonious interactions better for your process?
So it's interesting because every project is different, I swear. Like, I mean, obviously you could imagine that. With movies, the movies I've done, the indies I've done, depending on how much, what the scene calls for, depending on how much I'm showing up that day, depending on if the director and the producer and the writers are all in line and they all agree and the actors can pick up on that. And so they're able to, take it to the next level. Usually the movies, we have more time and a lot more, just more room to kind of play and have conversations with each other. So that's when I feel like the push is okay. Like if I have to start bawling and I'm not getting to that emotional place, and the director was an actor before or knows how to direct well, and he comes whispers something in my ear and it automatically makes me feel something, and if it's maybe a little manipulation in a way to get what it needs, but the actor knows that, should know that, and if it's working, then like right on, like then it works. I mean, every technique is different, every process, everyone approaches a process differently. With Stargirl, like I said, I mean, is very harmonious. And there was a lot of trust there. It wasn't a lot of control. It was like, oh, hey, so this scene, I'm thinking this. Let's see what you can bring. Like the preparation was so major for that show just because it was our first season and there is so much information online to grab from. And also, Jeff Johns was on set every day, so we could ask anything, literally anything we wanted. And when I did have questions, they were answered, immediately. So it was pretty flowy, and everyone was so great. All the adults and just the whole cast was so amazing to work with. Everyone was very present and listened to each other and were there for each other. So there was no uncomfortableness. So it was, yeah, Stargirl was very easy. There's been other times on sets where, it's a little more difficult, but usually because it's called for. Anyway.
Do you think there's like maybe a happy medium where you can let a director know, okay, you can say something to get me there if that's needed? Like, do you think that's something that should be part of the communication process? Like, you have my consent to maybe push me in certain situations as opposed to kind of like springing it on an actor? Because like, I've never been on a giant set, so I'm only speculating from the outside. So
yeah. I mean, the more communication, the better. Having conversations open and doors open to, be approachable. I've never been in a situation where I find myself being manipulated for no reason, and I'm like, oh, this is why you were doing this. I've never. It's usually just straight up. They're just straight up with me, or it's just like, I liked what you did. Like, let's do another take, and let's do it this way instead. Just so we have it. Stuff like that to kind of refresh. So, I mean, knock on wood, that doesn't happen soon, but it would be an interesting approach. I mean, I know that, like, are you thinking about like The Shining and the director and
that's
that
the
woman
most
having the whole thing?
Yeah, well, that's those are like the most extreme stories, but I still think
Yeah.
like, I mean, Amy Adams has told the story, but I'm not going to name names, but everybody knows if they're watching. I'm sure that everybody knows already, but she talked about being on a film and like basically the director made her cry, and it wasn't on the context of like, oh, he was helping me get there. It was like just doing too much. And Amy Adams is such a nice person. Like there's no reason to
Yeah.
like be yelling at her and being toxic and upsetting to her where she's never going to work with you again. Why would she? And she shouldn't, you
Yeah.
know? So
Yeah.
stuff like
Yeah.
that, it really rubs me the wrong way. It's maybe me
Totally.
projecting my own personal history. That's probably why I like your character so much. Cause I'm like, ooh, I'm like when she murders her father, I'm like, I don't think she did anything wrong. Like, what's the problem?
I love that. Thank you. Yeah, I know. There's no shame there. I'm completely on her side as well. They have no idea what she dealt with. Um, yeah, but no, I understand what you mean. That's totally something in the industry, and it's a power play, and it's, like I said, it's just the certain types of process people like to put other people through. But Stargirl specifically was definitely not that. It was pretty fun. And TV is kind of like that because we got to go, go, go. Like we're on a schedule. Like I said, with movies, they could take that time to be like, cut, what the hell is going on? And like get in your face or whatever, With TV, it's like everyone needs to respect each other and they need to show respect to one another and show that they are respectful. So, or else you're fired, you're out of there.
What is the timeline like with having a certain number of episodes to film? And I mean, how far in advance are you getting your scripts? Like, how is all of that?
So we're getting our scripts probably like 3 weeks before we shoot it, which is a fair amount of time, to be honest. And there's rewrites and stuff, but not super huge ones. And we shot 13 episodes last year, and we were there for 8 months. But that was because we had a bunch of camera tests at the beginning and a lot of just like basic, like, let's learn how to all be a team in a way and a crew and everything. So, and getting used to a new space, and they were building sets and everything. So they started a little earlier. Also, like we took maybe 2 weeks to shoot each episode when usually you're only allowed like a week and a few days, which is
Oh
how
my
we're
God.
going to be doing it. Yeah, which is how we're going to be doing it. Actually, you know what? I think we took 3 weeks for almost every episode, and you're only allowed a week and a half. I think that's what the difference is. Because of our budget, and DC Universe was so generous to give us such a wonderful kind of roomy season 1. Season 2 is definitely not going to be, our budget isn't, as we don't have as much money as we did last time, which completely makes sense because it's, CW now. But we're still going to be out there for 6 months. So we're going to be taking our time, but I just think that this season is going to be less action packed and more so character analysis, kind of character driven, layers and all that stuff, which is kind of cool. I'm excited to kind of hop into that side because I know it's kind of where my sweet spot is anyway.
Are they keeping it at 13 episodes or something in that
They are.
ballpark? Okay, good.
13,
I mean,
yes.
if you had said something else, I would have tried to play it off as polite, but I think it's absolutely the worst thing to do to have like 20 something episodes per season because there is absolutely no way to sustain the quality. Like it will get watered down, you will have filler, and it's just never good ever.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's exactly. I thought it was a good decision too. I mean, and honestly, like the 22 episodes shows and the 13 episode shows, like the fact that we're there literally the same amount of time just is we're able to feed just more energy and more time into the episodes that we do have. So I'm very grateful for that setup.
since you got started doing musical theater and you also do music, have there ever been any conversations, even jokingly, as about whether or not you would ever do a musical episode of Stargirl?
Oh my God. I mean, to be honest, no. We have not spoken about a musical episode. I mean, CW does that stuff, so I wouldn't
I
be
know, that's
surprised if they
why.
try to pitch it. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they try to pitch that. I don't know about superheroes though. The fact that this is like a superhero show, I feel like in a way it's already in some way a musical show, but like a superhero show instead. You know what I mean? Like if they added all of that, like I'm just like imagining like Brack like on her staff singing like in the sky.
Well, it's very like Mary
I don't
Poppins
know.
or Wicked or something, just like
Totally.
flying.
No, completely. They would have to do it so well. Like they would have to get really creative and not cheesy with it if they did do that. I don't know. I don't think Jeff would do that. Like this is his baby. I don't think he's gonna try to put music into it and make it like a what is that called, a triple threat type of show. But I don't know. I mean, I've had a lot of jobs where I've been able to sing and play guitar at the same time. Like during Foster's, a lot of the time I was singing, and they didn't even know I was a singer until they asked me, and they were like, "Oh, cool, we can integrate this into the show now." So yeah, who knows? Who knows? Maybe we're putting this out in the universe again now too. So that's good.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not somebody who insists on there being a musical episode if people don't want to do it, but I don't think there's anything wrong with giving it a try if the people that are making the thing are willing to do it. Like, I think Lucifer is supposed to have a musical episode this upcoming season, and that's going to be funny. They played a clip of it. Yeah, they played a clip of it at, I think they played a clip of it at DC Fandom, if I'm not mistaken, actually, now that I think about it. Yeah, they revealed a clip of them all like on a football field, and I'm pretty sure it's on YouTube now. I'm sure it's got to be on YouTube by now. After this, you can go look for it. Yeah. Well, I mean,
yeah, that's hilarious. Oh my god.
You can have Tom Ellis sing a song. Like he's musically inclined. Like why wouldn't you? It's like your last batch of episodes. You might as well, one final push.
He also feels super theatrical too. So I feel like he'd be able to kind of pull it off in a way, being the devil and all.
Yeah, I mean, his Lucifer is a bit camp anyway, so might as well.
Yeah, that'd be. I mean, you know what? These episodes, the musical episodes, if anything, are super entertaining. I mean, that's why they do them so often. They're very entertaining, whether they're considered the best episode or not the best episode. They're very entertaining. So I mean, they got that going for them.
I mean, maybe I'm just biased because I like musicals, so that might be part of it. I don't know. Like, I don't know which musicals you did, but like, I grew up on like a lot of the Rodgers and Hammerstein stuff and like Gene Kelly. So, I think we're long overdue for like a proper mainstream revival because like musicals never died on Broadway. Like they've been there, but as far as, on film, in the cinemas. I mean, the cinemas aren't even open right now anyway, so now is probably not the time. But in a few years, bring them back instead of just.
I mean, and I'm sure that they had some. I'm sure that they had some in. They have some in the queue. Like I remember auditioning for musicals a few months ago in quarantine. So they're happening. They are happening.
Yeah. Well, West Side Story is coming out next year because it got pushed back, and so did In the Heights. Right. So. That's good. We've got something.
Those are some of the two. There was another one that's in production right now. Oh my god, it's Little Shops of Horror. I auditioned for Little Shops of Horror a few weeks ago, or not a few weeks ago, a few months ago during quarantine. So they're doing that whole thing too. It's kind of fun and spooky. It probably won't come out until like next year, Halloween time,
or even longer. Who knows? Everything is.
Yeah, you're right. Everything's pushed.
The industry's a mess right now. Like cinemas are closed. People don't know when to release stuff, and they try to release stuff, and then it flops, and there's just drama all the time. So hopefully you're spared from most of that.
No, you're so right.
You've at least got your gig going. Yep, there it is.
Oh my god, there it is. Oh my god, that's a great still. That's the best. That's so spooky. Oh my god. That audition was so intense. I swear to God, it was so intense. I haven't sang like that, like the belty. Yeah, like the belting, like, very powerful, like fill the room singing. Because my music when I'm recording, like it's very, sultry and soft and kind of like, I don't know, it's not aggressive in a proper way. You know what I mean? But I hadn't sang like that in so long. It was really kind of fun to remind my vocal cords that I have that in me.
Yeah, and there you are.
Oh my my God. Oh my God, that's little me. Oh my gosh, that was so fun.
Do you always write starting on the
I'm doing
guitar, or do
this
you
is
ever?
like a bunch of covers. Yes, when I'm writing on my guitar, I usually start with like a easy chord progression, and I just kind of like press record on my phone and kind of just improv it out just to kind of see what types of words or flows I can find. With Jamie though, my producer, he's a bass player, and so all of my songs were very bass heavy, and we would start with a bass progression. So it was a cool different approach, and with that came fresh music, and I would just start writing to his little melodies. It was kind of fun. Talking about it makes me miss it so much. We
Do you have
leave for
a
Atlanta
studio?
to shoot season 2 in like a week. Do I have a
Oh,
studio?
yeah. Like, I don't know what your setup is at home for recording or writing or.
Oh, I have a mic. I have a mic, and usually I would just kind of soundproof a closet and go in there and kind of do it that. I don't have a full-on studio though. I would usually use my producer's studio. He has.
Mm,
I should get a setup though. I have like a MIDI and piano and keys. I'm gonna bring a little setup with me to Atlanta for days
yeah,
off.
why
I think it would be
not?
smart. I think it'd be so smart. Yeah, exactly.
Start writing for that musical episode.
Exactly. I just have to show up and be like, hey, so it's done. I wrote it. Take a look and let me know, what you think.
Yeah,
There's
and
a
then
duet there.
you get the money from all the proceeds of the song. So what is that?
Yeah, I
What is the
know.
expression? Diversify
I've
your
never
income.
tried to, I mean, exactly. I mean, writing musical songs, I can imagine it being so different than writing the music that I write, because it's like more of like a dialogue almost. You know what I mean? Like I've never written dialogue music. It's kind of interesting.
But it's fun though, and you get to like if you were to write
Sure.
the musical episode, then you would get to climb into all of the other characters psychologically, which obviously you're
True.
not doing that on the
Sure.
show. You're just focusing on your own character naturally. So then it's like you get to play everyone.
Totally.
You get to like Tatiana Maslany that thing, and it's like I'm playing all these characters now my show.
Totally.
So
You're totally right. You're so good. You're so good at planting these seeds, girl. Seriously, like you're giving me all these ideas by just mentioning these little pieces. Thank you.
I mean, it's what I'm here for. And like I have my own YouTube channel, so I'm always like brainstorming ideas for just what I have to create or what I want to create. And I would
Uh-huh.
love to be doing what you're doing of like, doing auditions and being told microaggressions by people who make more money than me and like I'm being sarcastic, but like I think most people when they're little, they have those types of aspirations. They want to be either an actor or like a pop star or rock star. And I wanted to be an
Yeah.
actor.
True.
But I'm Asian and my mom is Asian. So she was like, no. So,
Mm.
but then now I have a YouTube channel and I
But
still
you're
create
still on the
anyway.
screen, and now you're still on the screen. You're still on the screen, and now you're creating. You're creative in a different way, and that's amazing.
Yeah, well, you have to be creative. If you're gonna have a long form interview like this with someone, you need to be prepared to talk and just be spontaneous. Because
Oh yeah.
I hate boring interviews. Do you know how hard it is to research, whether it's to interview you or Joy or anyone else? Like, if I have to watch a bad interview, I'm like, I'm going to rip my hair out and punch someone in the face. Like, why are you talking like this? Why are you asking these stupid questions?
Totally.
Like, they haven't answered this a million times already. Maybe it's not as applicable for you and Joy because you're like the up and comers and this is one of the biggest gigs you've gotten, so now you've got this whole new audience learning about you, so you're not as bogged down by years and years of just the same 3 questions. But when you research other people
Right.
that do have that, oh, it's agony. I hate it. Like, I miss Craig Ferguson. Craig Ferguson was the best at doing interviews, but then he stopped doing his talk show and gave it to somebody who was inferior to him in every way. So whatever. Not that I think he
Oh my
chose.
God, that's crazy.
Let me not be
Yeah.
shady. I keep
No, but
doing this.
this is.
Every
You're
time, like
so okay. You're so okay.
this happened with Joy, where I got to the end of the interview and I was watching it today, and I almost had not a panic attack, but I started panicking, where I was going, No, I didn't mean to say that on the live show. I was saying way too much, and then it's happening again. So luckily we're about wrapped now
Oh my
because I
God,
don't
you're
want to
so
keep it
good.
for too long.
No, you're so
Yeah.
good. No, this was so fun. And you honestly are an amazing interviewer. So thank you so
Oh,
much for
thank
making me feel so
you.
comfortable and, just, covering everything in all things. And I really appreciate that. It's a very well-rounded interview and I'm proud of it. So thank you.
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you. I tried really hard because I was panicking since I literally only found out yesterday that I was definitely the one interviewing you. And I was like, oh my God, I got to panic. I got to rewatch her episodes
Yeah.
or her scenes. I got to research and just, yeah. And I was like, oh no, I don't have enough to talk with
You
her about.
killed
What are we
it.
going to talk about? I
Well,
was
we did it,
totally
girl. We did
panicking.
it. An hour what? Literally felt like that was 20 minutes.
Oh,
Seriously.
that's so sweet. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Come back anytime,
Thank
and I'm
you.
sure maybe
Thank you
once
so much.
season 2 starts or after it's finished. But it was a pleasure to have you. You are delightful. Pinoy Pride, all that good stuff. Make sure you go to
Thank you.
Manila, have some mangoes. It's good for
Yes,
your
yes.
spirit and all that. Like, I've never been either, but if I did, I would literally just sit around and eat mangoes all day. I would do nothing. I would gain
Oh my
like
God, I know. I know.
6 kilos just eating mangoes. Like, why not? If I'm gonna
Mangoes and
die,
sticky rice, so good.
yeah,
I don't know, right? I get it. I know. On an island, I'm good with that.